Well, many thanks for staying with Citizen TV on this outdoor edition of Newsnight. Now, my next guest is the CEO of Brick House Council, Aniala nominee, and also the daughter of Azimio leader Raila Odinga. Winnie Odinga, many thanks for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you so much, Reagan. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for making time. And of course, when you come from a family as high profile as yours, I get the sense one has to fight for their own identity. So I want to begin by asking you this evening, who is Winnie Odinga?
Winnie Odinga is many things. I think we're all not just one thing. I am a student, I'm a daughter, I'm an auntie, I'm a communicator, I'm an African, I'm many things and more. It's quite heavy.
And of course, a family that's known to be, a big name on the political scene. We didn't know much about you previously. Actually, we knew a lot more about your sister. Would you say you have political ambitions?
I believe by nature, every child of a politician would have thoughts or things like that. I also believe I should ask you, your father ran for president just like mine, so you tell me how it feels and what you're doing with it.
I was hoping you didn't ask me that. That's a very
see, so now we're, yeah.
That's a very interesting
That's where we are to now, we're the same, yeah.
And I ask you this because in a previous interview, you talked about your dad and you giving him advice on the campaign trail. What would you say your role was in the just concluded elections for Azimio?
I worked in the secretariat. I worked in logistics and communications. Operations, sorry, not logistics. Communications and operations. Making sure that the campaign, as it was concerned with the candidate, ran smoothly. We had T-shirts out on time, messaging, involving the youth, different aspects of the campaign. It's not my first presidential campaign. I've worked on 5 on the continent. I've worked in Tanzania, Zimbabwe, DRC, here of course too. So it's something I enjoy, something I've learned over the years. It's something I'm quite passionate about.
From an insider's perspective, what worked and what did not work?
Everything worked. The campaign was successful.
Some see it differently, especially supporters of Azimio.
Well, there's a difference between the campaign and the election day. The campaign was absolutely successful. The election day is not a question for me to answer.
Who is it a question for?
Chebukati, perhaps. I don't know.
Okay.
It's not me, it's not Winnie Odinga.
And I was hoping that you'd be able to shed more light on that because there have been all sorts of allegations out there. Some speak about resource mismanagement, others speak about sabotage, and many other things as well.
The question of sabotage is really ridiculous to me. This is my father, so I don't believe anybody worked harder on that campaign than me except himself. I didn't sleep for 1 year straight. We put all the work in, we worked with different people. People were there for their own agendas. People were there to sabotage us. People were there to do all sorts of things. And I believe I took care of the candidate and prepared him as best as could for him to succeed.
Will the truth about what happened come out anytime soon in your view?
I hope so. Yeah, I'm itching. But again, it's not my story to tell.
Well, what do you say were the low and high moments during the campaign period? And the election process as well?
Well, campaign is fun. It's fun. It's fun to go out there, to travel the country, to meet different people, to experience new things, try new ideas. Campaign is just a lot of fun. The low moments, of course, the whole country has seen it, if the whole country is not going through its own low moment. But during the campaign itself, the highs were much more than the lows. Yes.
Your critics say that you are overprotective, you micromanage the campaigns.
If I was overprotective, I see that as a compliment. He's my father. Everybody can call him Baba, but he's my father. At the end of the day, this is my blood. I come from him. He's the one who's taught me everything I know. He's the one who's put me in the positions that I am in. And so I don't see any problem with being overprotective. I think when people look back, they always look for somebody to blame. As much as I love campaign, I was hardly on the campaign trail. You have politicians saying I kept him away from them, but they were out in the field with him. They were with him more than I was ever with him. And so I think it's just, it's a lot of mudslinging. A lot of people are perhaps threatened because a lot of our skills came out. The campaign was about 80% young people. And you know, people don't like to be seen as irrelevant or to shake the status quo. So now perhaps as things are transitioning, they're just trying to silence me, perhaps. You know, this happens in many forms, many countries. They silence my brother, my sister. And for me, I'm going to continue doing what I think is right for this country.
What do you mean they silenced your siblings? What does that mean?
Well, there's a reason you're sitting here. I'm sitting here, and you're not sitting with any of those other two. I think they've tried, when it comes to us, children of politicians, and Wahiga, you don't get this. I don't know why you don't get this as a son of a politician. I think it's become sort of a witch hunt these days. And when you're a child of a politician, let's say your father owned a store, Lalji and Sons. Lalji does his shop, his sons do it, eventually his grandsons, whether it's a mechanic, Kamau, butcher, or whatever it is, you're allowed to do that. But when it comes to children of politicians, and not all, just especially this family, the only argument they place is that you're related to this person. Not a judgment of character, not knowledge, inquisition, not experience, not anything. As far as that's concerned, you're given a different standard, which is the one thing about you that you're unable to change. Nobody sat in heaven with God and said, hey, give me that guy, I want that guy to be my dad. Nobody picks. And for me, I'd like to paraphrase Wangari Maathai. The only part of my anatomy that is concerned right now is from my neck above. Nothing else, not my blood type, not any other part of me should I be judged for except what I know and what I say.
I'll be talking a little bit about your potential political ambitions shortly, but before that, you spoke about pouring your heart and soul into the campaigns. You've pointed a few fingers here and there in regards to what went wrong. How did you feel when it was all now very clear that Kenya Kwanza had won and Azimio had lost? I'd use different words to describe that, but I shan't today. Of course, it was devastating. All that work, all those hours, all those people that relied on us so that this didn't happen, or that the outcome would go in a different way, is devastating. This is where I'm from, these are my people, and it's difficult. It's difficult to let them down because for a lot of them, Raila Odinga's hope out of a desperate or pathetic situation. So it's certainly been difficult. But we have to find ways out. With hindsight, any regrets? Anything you wish was done differently?
Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't say regrets. In fact, the funny thing is I wish I was as aggressive as the person they describe on social. I wish I, at certain times, was as aggressive as the person that they do describe, yeah.
Now coming back to where we are today, and a tweet that you put out, I think this was on the 19th of October, you said, "I've not applied for Yala, nor has any official communication come from the party. Just a disgruntled incoming CS bothered by the girl. What changed since the 19th of October. We saw that tweet. The
But
next
you're
thing
not
we
saying
saw
you're not saying
is
it cool like me.
Oh,
It's like,
go ahead and say it. Let's see.
Yeah, what about it?
So you're in the race for the slot in Yala.
Yes.
Why you?
Where was I?
Why you? Why you for Yala?
Why not? Why not me? All the conditions for Yala I have, and I've passed, and I achieved them. So why not me? The tweet in question that you're speaking about, it's true, I was not, I had not applied for Yala, nor was I even thinking of taking this step. However, the influx from different people around the country and consultation with my family pushing me to go made me realize that I would be doing a great disservice to the people who believe in myself or my family if I didn't step up to the plate.
Your critics say that, or critics to your move say that it is the name Odinga that has gotten you that nomination.
The name Odinga has gotten me very many things. The name Odinga has gotten me into trouble. It's gotten me abused. It's gotten me blamed for many, many things and persecuted. The name Odinga has also been a blessing, and it's a name that I'll emphatically be proud of and defend. But the name Odinga does not define Winnie. I have 6 names, you know. The other day I was watching a news channel. You guys didn't say my name. I have 6 names. The whole news story, you just said Ryla's daughter. Why don't you want to use my name?
I'm sure about that. I'm sure we said.
Yeah, if today I see Ryla's daughter, I'm going to be calling you. I've done a lot more things in my life.
And let's talk, now that you've taken us there, does being Ryla's daughter advantage or disadvantage you in this contest?
I believe I just answered that. In this context, I believe it does both and in equal measure. I believe it does both in equal measure, and you can just see from the correspondence the different thoughts, the different things. Being Ryla's daughter is a disadvantage because they don't want to see what I'm capable of doing. They don't want to hear that. They don't want you to walk through the door, certain people, just because of that. However, being Ryla's daughter has enabled me to travel the world, to go to different places. I've been to every country in the EAC except for Burundi. Yeah. And no offense to Burundi, I love the great people of Burundi, but even though I've not been there, I've been there. Because the story of each and every of the 54 African countries is the same. One of poverty, of greed, of corruption, of all these things. And I believe it's completely maladroit for us to continue in the same way of seeing each other as competitors as opposed to us working together as a union. So, yeah, being Ryla's daughter allowed me to say that statement right now.
The Yala vote is coming up later this week. Both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio MPs will be voting on that. Have you reached out to Kenya Kwanza MPs?
Absolutely, yes. I speak to them even right after this. I'm going to go to Parliament to lobby. I've been in Parliament the past few days. I speak to them, and this is not an issue of political belief. This is an issue of representation of the country.
I'm curious to hear from you. What sort of feedback are you getting from parliamentarians when you walk up to them and tell them, give me a chance of this?
I'm getting really good feedback from both sides of the aisle, perhaps even more enthusiastic on the other side. I'm getting good feedback. For them, you know, it was a campaign, and the campaign is over, and we have to move on to being more productive. And they're giving me as much time as my competitors to explain what it is I want to do for Kenya, and it's been good, enjoyable.
Have you consulted former Yala MPs on what it takes to represent Kenya at that level, and specifically Kennedy Kalonzo?
Yes, actually. Kennedy made me understand the importance of institutional memory in bodies such as East Africa Assembly. He's very knowledgeable on the happenings on the House, how it works, what are some of the issues pertinent, and made me actually believe that every time we switch regimes for such, especially the East Africa Assembly, all the countries involved, they should keep one member for institutional memory. But I think that's been the reason for the stagnation of the implementation of ideals there, because every time a new cohort comes, they start from scratch. And new cohorts, you know, come every time there's an election, and in this region we have elections every year. So I do seek his advice, and he's very, very knowledgeable.
In the past, even before you threw your hat into the ring, critics have argued that Yala is one, a dumping ground for political rejects and a safe haven for big political families, in a sense, to groom their own. I
feel like you're the critic. You keep referring to critics.
If you look online at the reaction as soon as the list was out, that was the discussion. Those were the concerns by Kenyans out there.
Okay. Well, for me, I'm not going to Yala as a representative of the Odinga family. If that was the case, the Odinga family could have nominated me over dinner 2 days ago. I'm going to represent the people of Kenya, the young people of Kenya, and what I believe they're able to do, and where I see this world is, and where this world is going, let's say in the next 10 to 15 years. Currently, our education system is completely ill-equipped to prepare our young people for the world that is today. Our education system is 30 years in the past. It worries me that even in 15 years, what would our young people be doing when the world has developed even further? You know, they say nowadays a child should begin holding a smartphone by the age of 2. They should have an iPad by 4. By 10, they should be coding, and so on and so forth, and you keep going. And you have people in Kenya who are seeing computers for the first time in university. You have people who can't complete a sentence. The state of young Kenyans, young East Africans, young Africans is in dire strains, and I want to begin and work to lifting some of those people up.
Should you get that Yala slot, what would the next 5 years look like for you?
The next 5 years will be first to build a coalition of the willing. You have all these countries, Western countries, that have for years interfered with Africa. They interfere with our resources, they interfere with our governance. Look at America right now. America is the most divided I have ever seen it. But instead of focusing on themselves, they're interfering on the African continent. And all over the continent, they pick different leaders, different things to put money into. And the result is to leave us, our people, in extreme poverty, offensive poverty, honestly, because they only do it for their own benefit, not for the benefit of the people. So for me, it would be to build a coalition of the willing, people who are like, look, enough of us putting so much emphasis on the political. You can pick all the leaders you want, but we the people, we're going to move on. We're going to move on without you. And the next time you meet us in 15 years from now, you're going to find a smarter African, a more well-equipped African, an African that knows you as good as you think you know us, and an African who is negotiating as part of a team, and not you coming into individual countries and reaping and raping the land like you've been doing it. So for me, that's what I would be doing.
It's not the first time I've heard concerns about interference in elections by Western countries, and you specifically singled out the US. In fact, your Raila Odinga actually spoke to it at the height of the election period as well. Do you think there was interference in Kenya?
Absolutely. Kenya is their favorite. Kenya is like their PlayStation. You know, I have in this office I put like virtual reality glasses. Have you ever worn a virtual reality glass? Yeah, that's what Kenya is to them. You just put it and you play, and we know all their tricks. You see, this is what I'm saying by an educated African.
And just to justify a statement you made earlier when you spoke of interference. How specifically do you believe Western countries interfered in the election in Kenya?
What's the scale? How do you want to measure it?
You tell me.
Give me a scale.
1 to 10.
13.
That high is your belief. It's something you can stand in a court of law and testify.
Which court of law? These ones?
For example. For example.
Absolutely. I'll even show you how.
Broadening the conversation, and you campaign for him, so I think I'm best placed to ask you this then. If Azimio leader Raila Odinga chooses not to vie in 2027, what would you say will be his enduring legacy?
I think just that. I think his endurance, his resilience, his ability to always recreate himself, his ability to be selfless, his ability to constantly fight for the betterment of Africa and African people, I think will be his legacy.
Do you think he'll vie again?
You'll have to ask him. I am Winnie. He is somebody else.
One of the things you posted online that got a lot of people talking is you posted, everybody is somebody's son or daughter. One day you'll just call me Winnie. What I'm urging our leaders in parliament is that, please vote for me, look at me in the context of my ability to serve, and you've been quite expressive online.
No, this is more for you guys in the media who keep calling me Raila's daughter, not Winnie Odinga, You even see people there who, it was crazy. I saw this last week. Under my photo, you had the photos of all the Yala candidates. Under mine, it said Raila's daughter.
Not on our platform. There was no
occupation, where everybody else had their name and their occupation. So I think we also have a responsibility to be responsible in how you're reporting. And we live in this country where everybody is so quick to fight each other, to see somebody as the other. You're another tribe. You speak different from me. You're from this family. You're blah, 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 blah. And not giving people the chance to be themselves. We don't embrace our differences. We don't see the gems that we have in certain people. You break them down. We diminish them. We diminish their achievements. And this happens a lot with young women, especially in this country. And as the world is changing and you have women leading massive countries and different things, what do you want to do with African women? Their counterparts are changing the world, but here at home, we're killing them. What do you want the African woman to do? We have to lift each other up, and you must lift her up as much as she lifts up the African man. And that's my feeling on that.
How long do you think it will take for Kenya to get a female deputy president or a female president, in your estimation?
I don't know, man. I could, maybe by luck, like Tanzania, I don't know. I don't know, I can't answer that.
You can't answer.
We have to be alive to a lot of realities culturally in this country, a lot of predispositions to women's leadership in this country. But I hope and pray that one day there will be somebody who is fit to lead us, regardless of whether they're a man or a woman. Somebody who understands what's going on and knows how to change the place.
As we wrap this up, what impact generally would you say politics has had on your family?
I can't say impact. I think it's part of the DNA. It's there. It's always been there. It was there since before Kenya began. And impact, whether negative or positive, it is who we are. And we don't do it for the sake of power. We do it to achieve better living for Kenyans. Nobody wants to be a king amongst paupers. Today it rained. The whole city was stopped. The largest city in Eastern Central Africa was stopped because of water that fell from the sky. That's not good enough, not in 2022, and certainly not in the future. These are simple things. We have drought in this country, drought which, is a curse from God, they say, those who believe in God. But people dying of hunger in 2022 is completely unacceptable. And if there are those who want to say that if the Odingas are calling that out, they shouldn't, because they're related to Raila, so they shouldn't have a right to call that out, I think I'm just completely lost. We will not stop. It doesn't matter if you finish this one, another one will come. And we will keep going until this country is where it's supposed to be.
Do you share your concerns with Raila Odinga, who has had a good number of MPs in Parliament who could lobby to get laws that hopefully can implement some of the things you're talking about? Do you make those concerns very clear to him?
Absolutely.
What does he say when you...
He said, go to Yala.
Okay. He says go to Yala.
I mean, it's stuff, man. Like, I talk to my mom, I speak to everybody. What do you want me to say?
What does that family setup look like, just off the cuff? When you have so much pressure that every move you make is a newspaper, how does your family then function? Who gives the directions? Who issues the orders? How does it work?
No, nothing really happens. It's normal. I don't think there's ever a day in my life I've opened a newspaper and not seen my last name. I don't believe so. It's normal. It's even part of learning. Like, oh, not everybody loves you. Huh? What are you going to do? Are you going to be broken? Are you going to be strong? It's part of learning. It's part of growing up.
Has it changed how you interact now internally with your siblings, with your parents?
No, you see, my mother's house is not the chambers of parliament. We don't go there and have political debates all the time. We talk about, sometimes you don't even talk. Sometimes you're watching TV and she's walking by and you're chatting and, you know, it's home. And home is the same everywhere. Home is where you're safe. Home is where you feel loved. And that's what we do there. We're a family.
Winnie Odinga, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Take care.